Hey friends, welcome back to another video from Subculture Garage Works. In today's video, we're going to take a short break from building the black velvet bobber in order to swap out handlebars on the FXR behind me. These are a set of handlebars I fabricated last week, and I'm calling them my heartbreaker bars because the shape of this top section here kind of reminds me of a heart. I bent up all the tubing and welded it all together here in the garage, and then I dropped them off at VA Finishing in Virginia Beach to get powder coated gloss black. VA Finishing is the same shop that powder coated all my engine parts on the black velvet bobber, and they always do fantastic work. They were able to get these back to me in about one business day, and the finish on them is flawless. So shout out to VA Finishing and all the great work they do. Now, I didn't film the fabrication of these bars, but the very first video I ever uploaded to the Subculture channel was the handlebar fabrication for black velvet, and I used a very similar process to build these bars. So if you'd like to see a video on how to design and fabricate a set of handlebars in your own garage using pretty simple tools, there's a link to that video in the description of this one. Now, you might notice that these are a very similar style to the bars that are already on there, and you might be asking, why go through the trouble of swapping out the bars if they're virtually the same? And while I will say they're a similar style, obviously I like the style of handlebars, the Heartbreakers do have one very important difference. They are significantly narrower than the bars that are already on the bike. If the bike were set up to be just a comfortable cruiser with forward controls that kept my feet out in front of me, a set of handlebars that are relatively wide and sit me back like this would be a pretty good choice. But a club-style FXR really shines when you throw it in and out of the curves. It's a very high-performance oriented bike, and it's extremely quick, it's extremely agile, and with it set up that has mid-controls that keep my feet in the middle of the bike, high-performance suspension, high-performance braking system, taking a set of handlebars that sits me like this and changing them for bars that give me a little bit more of an aggressive riding position will really help me feel the road through the bike, and I think that's going to make it a lot more fun to ride. So we're going to swap these out today, and I'm going to use text on the screen to describe all the steps that I'm taking. If you've never swapped out a set of bars before, you can use this as an example of how to do it. You might be swapping out bars on a Harley or a custom bike, and in either case, you might have a set of hand controls that are slightly different than the ones that I have. But the hand controls on all American-made bikes are all conceptually the same. You've got electrical controls, hydraulic controls, and mechanical controls. We're going to disconnect all of that, remove the old bars, install the new ones, and then reconnect all the controls and verify that they work. So this can be sort of your how-to video on how to do that. If you like what you see, hit the like button, throw up a comment in the comment section, and if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing because there's always more subculture videos in the works. Now here's a really important lesson. Check your work as you go. Before I cleaned up the connector on the right-hand side, I checked the functionality of the buttons and the turn signal, and they all work just fine. On the left-hand side, if you want to check the functionality of the buttons and you have a voltmeter, you can just switch it to the continuity function, and that's going to make a sound anytime there's a connection made. Just like that. So what I can do is take my ground wire here and let's test the horn. The horn power wire is this orange wire. I'm going to put that on my leads. I don't hear anything, which is good, but then I press the button and I know the buttons work. All three buttons check out just fine. Now, in order to test the turn signal, I have a 9-volt battery here, which is less than the 12-volt battery the motorcycle runs, but all I want to do is verify that the light comes on. I can check the light function by putting my battery on my leads, and you can see the running light works just fine. But if I put my turn signal wire on there and do the same test, I get nothing. So that sucks, but I'm glad that I found it now while I've got the bars off the bike and the ability to do some troubleshooting, as opposed to not checking the work, putting all the stuff on the bike, connecting all of the controls, turning the key on, and finding that everything works with the exception of the left turn signal. Then I'd have to disassemble everything. I'd have to redo all of these clean connections that I made on my connectors, and I would have to troubleshoot from there. So what I'm going to do is tie a fishing line to the end of the wires for the turn signal. I'm going to pull the turn signal wires out, which will pull the fishing line through the bars. I'll troubleshoot the signal. Likely there's just a broken wire somewhere inside these handlebars. I can fix that wire, and then once that's done, I'll tie the fishing line to the wires again, pull them back through, and then keep going with the project.